Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Welcome to our deep dive on consciousness.
Ooh, a big one.
It is. It's one of the biggest mysteries we face.
Absolutely.
We're going to look at it from all angles,
All right.
philosophy, neuroscience, biology,
Even AI.
even AI.
Wow.
Our goal is to give everyone listening a really solid understanding of how people are thinking about consciousness these days.
Okay.
And, maybe spark some questions.
Sounds good.
So, to build a really strong foundation, let's start with philosophy.
Okay.
It's where this conversation's been happening for centuries.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, hundreds of years.
So one of the longest-running debates in this whole field is about the nature of consciousness.
Right.
What is it?
Is it something separate from the body?
Right. Or is it just our brains doing their thing?
Yeah.
Dualism versus materialism.
The classic debate.
Yeah.
The classic.
So let's break those down for a minute.
Okay.
Dualism, championed by René Descartes, he's a big name, it proposes that the mind and body are totally distinct,
Two different things.
separate entities.
Totally.
So the mind is a non-physical thing.
Right.
And the body's in the physical world.
Almost like that idea of, what was it, the ghost in the machine?
Right. Gilbert Ryle's phrase.
Yeah, that's the one.
So dualism, the mind and body are separate. What about materialism?
Materialism, the opposite.
Okay.
It says, look, consciousness, it just comes from the brain.
Okay.
Physical processes.
Yeah.
Happens in the brain, that's it.
Got it.
No need for the separate mind thing.
So just physical activity.
Daniel Dennett, he's a big proponent of that.
Oh, yeah.
Consciousness is an emergent property of complex interactions in the brain, he says.
Interesting. But those aren't the only views, are they?
No, not at all. There's other perspectives out there,
Like what?
like panpsychism, for example.
That's the one that says consciousness is everywhere, right?
Exactly. Everywhere. Pervasive. It's like a fundamental feature of the universe.
Even rocks have a little bit.
Even rocks, even atoms,
Right.
in a sense, they have some level of consciousness.
Okay, why is that idea getting so much attention?
Well, some folks see it as a way to tackle the hard problem of consciousness.
Right.
The big one. Why does subjective experience feel like anything at all?
Why does it feel like something to be me?
Exactly. Why does it feel like something to see the color red? Or to feel pain? To taste a strawberry? These are the questions that keep philosophers up at night.
And scientists too, probably.
And scientists, too.
So how does panpsychism even try to address that?
Well, if consciousness is already fundamental, right, then you don't have to explain how it arises from matter.
I guess that makes sense.
It's just there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Built into reality itself.
But even if that were true, wouldn't we still have to ask where this fundamental consciousness came from in the first place?
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's a great point. And that's something that even people who support panpsychism, they wrestle with that question.
It's definitely a different way of looking at things.
Totally. It's a whole different way of looking at the universe.
Okay, so there's dualism, materialism, and panpsychism. Are there any other major contenders?
Yeah, we can't forget functionalism.
Oh, right, functionalism. Remind me about that one.
Functionalism, it's all about what a system does, not what it's made of.
Okay.
It says mental states, they're defined by their functions.
By how they work?
Exactly. How they process information, take in input, produce output, all that.
So if you've got a system, any system, and it's doing the same things as a conscious mind,
Right.
could you call it conscious then?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
And it's especially relevant when we start talking about AI.
Oh, right. That's coming up later.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, so we've got all these ideas floating around, centuries of debate.
Right.
No definitive answers yet, though.
Not yet, no.
So why do we even care about this philosophical stuff?
Well, these debates, they've been crucial. They help us refine the questions. They force us to really think about what we're even talking about when we say consciousness.
So it sets the stage for actually investigating it.
Exactly. Lays the groundwork for science to step in.
Perfect. That's a great segue.
Yeah.
Let's move from philosophy to neuroscience.
Sounds good to me.
What's going on in the brain when we experience consciousness?
Yeah, that's what neuroscientists are trying to figure out.
They're looking for the neural correlates of consciousness.
That's it, the NCCs.
The minimum neural activity that you have to have for any conscious experience to occur
Like trying to find the footprints of consciousness.
in the brain.
Right. And they're using some really cool tools to do it.
Like what?
fMRI, EEG, studying patients who've had brain lesions,
Yeah.
seeing how damage to certain areas impacts their consciousness.
Fascinating stuff. So what have they found?
Well, it's not quite as simple as we might hope. Is
Okay.
there like a consciousness center,
Yeah.
a single spot where it all happens? It's not looking like that.
Okay. So no magic button.
No magic button, although some regions have popped up a lot in the research,
Like what?
like the prefrontal cortex,
Okay.
the posterior parietal cortex,
Right.
the thalamus.
But they're not the sole source of consciousness.
No, it seems more like a network thing.
So a bunch of different parts working together.
Exactly. Consciousness is more like an orchestra.
Okay.
You need all those different instruments playing in harmony.
To make the music. I like that analogy.
It's a good one, right?
So it's a network, but how does it actually work? Are there any theories about the mechanisms?
Oh, yeah. There are a few leading contenders, like the global workspace theory, for instance.
Okay. That one rings a bell. Remind me how it works.
Sure. Bernard Bars, he came up with it.
Right.
And the basic idea is that consciousness arises when information gets broadcast across a network of brain regions.
Kind of like a global news bulletin.
Exactly. Big news event, it gets broadcast everywhere, everyone knows.
So consciousness is like that news bulletin.
It brings information together from all different parts of the brain.
Is there any evidence for that?
Yeah, actually, studies have shown that there's more neural connectivity and synchronization during conscious experiences.
So when we're aware of things.
Right. It suggests that this widespread communication is key to awareness.
Okay, so global workspace theory, what are the other ones?
Another big one, integrated information theory.
Ooh.
That's IIT for short.
IIT.
Developed by Giulio Tononi.
Okay.
It's a little more on the complex side.
Oh, so.
It tries to quantify consciousness,
Quantify.
like actually measure it.
Wow, how do you even measure consciousness?
Well, according to IIT, the more integrated and differentiated the information processing in a system,
Okay.
the richer the conscious experience.
So more complex information processing means more consciousness.
Basically, yeah. The more interconnected the system, the more diverse the information it can handle, the higher its level of consciousness.
Okay, I'm still not quite clear on how you'd measure that, though.
Right. IIT uses this mathematical measure. It's represented by the Greek letter phi.
Phi.
Yeah. And it's supposed to represent the amount of integrated information in a system.
So if a system has a high phi value.
It's theoretically more conscious, yeah.
Sure.
It's a really interesting theory, but it's definitely still debated, but has been influential, you know?
In what way?
It's helped us try to understand consciousness in a more quantitative, measurable way.
It seems like there's still a long way to go before we truly understand how it all works.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Even with all these advanced theories, there's still a lot of mystery.
So what's the biggest hurdle right now?
The biggest challenge, I think, is connecting those dots between the neural activity we can see, measure, you know,
Right.
and the actual subjective experience of consciousness.
Right, like how do you go from looking at brain waves to actually knowing what it feels like to be conscious?
Exactly. It's a big leap. And it might require new ways of thinking, even new tools for studying it. But the progress that's being made, you know, in neuroscience, it's encouraging.
Absolutely.
We're learning more about the brain every single day.
And every new discovery gets us closer to understanding consciousness.
Absolutely. You know, we've been talking a lot about consciousness in humans,
Yeah.
but there's a bigger picture here. To really wrap our heads around consciousness,
Yeah.
we need to zoom out a little.
Okay.
Go from the human brain to like a broader biological perspective.
So you're saying we need to look at consciousness in animals?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Biology suggests that consciousness isn't something unique to us. It's probably evolved gradually over a long period.
Right. So other animals could be conscious too.
Potentially to varying degrees.
Are there like examples of animal behavior that hint at consciousness?
Absolutely. Like tons, yeah. Studies on great apes have shown some really compelling stuff.
Great apes, like gorillas.
Yeah, gorillas, chimps, bonobos, orangutans. They've actually shown self-recognition in mirror tests.
Whoa, so they can recognize themselves.
Yeah, which is a pretty big indicator of self-awareness.
Wow.
It's not just apes either.
Wow.
Elephants, dolphins, and certain birds, like magpies.
That's fascinating.
They've also shown self-recognition.
So just because they can recognize themselves?
Yeah.
Does that mean they're having the same conscious experience as humans?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
We can't just hop into their minds and see, can we?
No.
But the fact that they can recognize themselves,
Yeah?
that's a pretty big deal.
Right.
It suggests a certain level of self-awareness that's pretty remarkable.
So it's not just about mirror tests.
No, not at all.
What else points to consciousness in animals?
Lots of things. Think about tool use, for example.
Okay.
Crows, for example. They've been seen making tools.
Really?
Yeah, to get food out of hard-to-reach spots.
Wow.
That kind of planning, that problem solving,
Yeah.
that suggests some degree of conscious thought.
Okay, so observing these complex behaviors.
Yeah,
It's giving us clues about how consciousness evolved.
exactly.
So consciousness isn't just an on or off switch.
Right.
It's more like a dimmer switch.
Yeah, I like that.
Different species might be aware in different ways.
With different levels of cognitive abilities.
This brings up a really important point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If animals are conscious, what does that mean for how we treat them?
It's a huge ethical question.
Research, agriculture, entertainment.
Right, all of that.
Our understanding of animal consciousness could really change things.
Absolutely. It challenges that whole idea that humans are the only truly conscious beings.
Yeah, the anthropocentric view.
Exactly. And it opens up this whole other possibility, you know?
What's that?
Consciousness might exist in forms we haven't even thought about yet.
Like in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's the big one.
AI and consciousness.
That's the most mind-bending possibility of all.
It is, but it's also a little unnerving.
I agree.
Can a machine really be conscious?
It's a debate that's been raging for a while now.
So what's the thinking there?
Well, the idea is that if we can build a machine that replicates what the human brain does,
Yeah.
then in theory, consciousness might emerge.
So it's not about what the brain's made of.
No, it's about how it functions.
Like the processes the information flow.
Exactly. Remember functionalism.
Yeah.
That's kind of the foundation here.
Okay.
If a system can function like a conscious mind,
Right.
then it could be considered conscious.
Even if it's made of silicon chips instead of neurons.
Potentially, yeah.
But even if we could perfectly copy the brain's processes,
Yeah.
would that actually equal conscious experience?
That's the big question.
Right. Would it feel like something to be that machine?
That's the heart of the debate.
Oh,
Functionalism suggests it might be possible.
right.
But the subjective experience of consciousness, those qualia, that's a massive hurdle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fancy word for the subjective qualitative character of experience. Like the feeling of seeing the color red.
Exactly. The redness of red.
Or the taste of chocolate.
Yes. Or the feeling of pain, all those things.
Okay, I get it.
We still don't fully understand how that subjective experience happens in our own brains,
Right.
let alone how to recreate it in a machine.
So even with all the advancements in AI,
Yeah.
we're still a long way from having machines that truly feel and experience things.
It seems that way.
Right.
Our current AI systems, even the really advanced ones, the neural networks,
Yeah.
they can do amazing things, mimic human conversation even,
Right.
but there's no proof that they actually have subjective awareness.
So how can we even know if a machine is conscious?
That's a tough one.
Is it just philosophy and speculation at this point?
Well, there are thought experiments.
Okay.
Like one of the most famous is John Searle's Chinese room argument.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Remind me how it goes.
Okay, so imagine a person who doesn't speak any Chinese,
Okay.
and they're locked in a room.
With this rule book for manipulating Chinese symbols,
Right.
people outside the room slip Chinese questions under the door.
Okay.
The person inside, using the rule book, produces Chinese answers.
So it looks like they understand Chinese,
Exactly.
but they don't really.
Right. They're just following rules.
And that's like a computer.
Yeah, a computer can manipulate symbols, produce outputs that seem intelligent,
Right.
but does it actually understand what it's doing?
That's Searle's point.
Exactly.
There's a difference between processing symbols and actually understanding meaning.
That's the core of the argument.
So just because an AI can talk like a human
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's conscious.
Right. It might just be following rules without any real understanding.
That's really thought-provoking.
It raises some serious doubts about whether we can ever create truly conscious machines.
So it sounds like figuring out artificial consciousness is tied to figuring out consciousness itself.
Absolutely. If we want to create conscious machines, we need to understand what consciousness is in the first place.
Which is still a huge mystery.
It's a question that's keeping scientists, philosophers, and now AI researchers up at night.
Wow, we've really gone deep on this one.
Yeah, we have.
Consciousness,
Topics.
so many
It's
layers,
definitely not a simple one.
from philosophy to neuroscience the biology of it all,
Even AI?
even AI, it's clear that consciousness is,
It's a real head-scratcher.
it is.
But even with all the unanswered questions,
Right.
I think exploring all these different angles, it gives us a deeper appreciation for how complex it is.
For sure. And the implications,
Yeah.
for how we understand ourselves.
And the universe.
Exactly.
It's all connected.
So maybe we can take a minute, recap some of the key takeaways.
Okay, sounds good.
We started way back with the fundamental debate in philosophy, right?
Yeah, the nature of consciousness.
Dualism says it's separate from the body.
And materialism says it's a product of the brain.
Right. And then we had those alternative views, too, like
Panpsychism.
panpsychism, saying consciousness is everywhere,
A fundamental part of the universe.
and functionalism, focused on what mental states actually do.
Their functions.
Right, not what they're made of.
Exactly.
Then we shifted gears, went into the brain,
Neuroscience.
looking for those neural correlates of consciousness.
The NCCs.
The minimum neural activity for consciousness to happen.
Right.
We talked about those leading theories, the global workspace theory,
Consciousness is like a global news bulletin
broadcasting information.
across the brain.
And then there was integrated information theory,
IIT trying to actually quantify consciousness
measuring it.
with that phi value.
Right.
Then we zoomed out even further, looked at it from a biological lens.
Thinking about animals,
Animal consciousness,
evidence from mirror tests, tool use,
problem solving
all pointing to different degrees of awareness,
in different species.
which leads to all sorts of ethical questions.
How we treat animals, especially the ones who seem conscious.
Right. Exactly.
And then we went to the most mind-boggling frontier.
Artificial intelligence.
AI.
Can machines be conscious?
Can we replicate consciousness in a machine?
The big questions.
The possibility is there, maybe. If we can copy the brain's functions,
But the subjective experience, those qualia, that's the big mystery.
how do you make a machine that actually feels?
And even if they can talk like us, pass the Turing test.
The Chinese room argument says that might not be enough.
Understanding meaning versus just following rules.
Big difference.
So where do we even go from here?
Well, I think continued collaboration between neuroscience and AI is key.
Yeah, building better models of the brain.
Understanding those neural processes behind consciousness.
Right, and then maybe use that to build better AI.
Exactly.
But we also need better ways to measure consciousness itself.
Not just in humans.
Animals, maybe even machines.
Right.
But for that, we need a clearer definition of what consciousness even is.
That's still a work in progress.
It is, but it's an exciting one. And we can't forget the ethical side of this.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
What happens if we create conscious machines?
What rights would they have?
What responsibilities do we have towards it?
Big questions.
This is just the beginning of the journey, really.
Just scratching the surface.
The study of consciousness is going to keep pushing us
Challenge our assumptions.
in our understanding.
For sure.
But it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. It's about understanding ourselves.
And our place in the universe.
At the most fundamental level.
So to everyone listening,
Keep exploring.
keep asking those tough questions.
Stay curious.
And let's keep having these conversations.
About consciousness.
Yeah, because understanding this mystery
It's at the heart of what it means to be human.
and what it means to exist.
In this vast and mysterious universe.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.